Darth Bane was heading for Ducken, an oversized moon of Onderon. He had recently uncovered information that led him to believe that Freedon Nadd's lost burial place was on Dxun. He found this information on the planet Ruusan, within an old Sith camp among Sith artifacts and texts. The trip to Dxun from Ruusan should take Bane roughly 4 or 5 days in his ship. However, he was eager to get to Dxun, to find the secrets and perhaps the holocron of Freedon Nadd. He made the distance in almost 2 days, pushing his ship to the very limits, now that Darth Bane had accomplished his task of eradicating the Dark Brotherhood. Led by the betrayer Khan and his army of so-called equals, Darth Bane had officially declared himself Dark Lord of the Sith, and as such, all Sith artifacts and the like now belonged to him. He was on a personal mission to collect as much ancient knowledge as he could, so that he could one day pass that information along to his apprentice. Bane's apprentice, Zana, was a 10-year-old human female who he had abandoned on the planet Ruusan just before leaving for Dxun. He gave her strict instructions to meet him on Onderon in exactly 10 days. If she didn't complete this task, she would not be worthy of being Bane's apprentice. Zana would have to make her own way there, with no assistance from Bane at all. After all, Bane wasn't about to take a child with him to potentially collect a holocron from Nadd's tomb. Bane had trouble with his landing on Dxun. He had to crash land and in the process broke his shoulder bone. Before Bane was the Dark Lord of the Sith, he had been a soldier in the Sith military, where he would occasionally have to help healers pop bones back into place, as Bane could do it easily due to his size and stature. However, performing the maneuver on himself wasn't easy. Bane had to hold his left arm between his thighs and then throw his body backwards to get his shoulder bone back to where it's meant to be. After Bane was able to stabilize himself with some stims from his ship's medical supplies, he took to traversing the wilds of Dxun and began his search for the tomb of Freedon Nadd. The search wouldn't be too difficult. Bane himself was incredibly attuned to the dark side of the Force, and he could sense the presence of Nadd's tomb, like a beacon calling out to him. Bane spent what felt like days making his way to the tomb, fighting the wildlife of Dxun on the way, one encounter of which almost killed him. Dxun wasn't a place to be underestimated. Eventually, Bane found himself affront a large temple with huge stone walls and an entrance large enough to fit half a dozen bantha through. There was no mistake. This was it. The entrance clearly used to house a large stone door. However, it had been smashed open already. Perhaps a few centuries earlier, others came seeking the same knowledge. Bane thought over the history of the Sith, and recalled that the fallen Jedi Dxun had, according to rumour, raided Freedon Nadd's tomb and emerged with great power. It could be possible that the tomb was empty, with no secrets to offer except the same fate as that of the temples on Korriban, completely empty. The thought of finding nothing would fuel Bane's motivation to clear the temple swiftly, while still being cautious as to not disturb any leftover traps. On his journey to Dxun and before, Bane had been experiencing severe headaches and hallucinations of the Sith he had killed. Khan, the former leader of the Dark Brotherhood, stood at the entrance of Nadd's tomb, just an image from Bane's subconscious. Khan never said a word when he appeared, and Bane did his best to ignore him. Pain from the headaches would only drive his dark side power further, turning the pain into power through raw dark side channeling. Darth Bane enters the tomb and starts his search. Inside, he finds a long corridor with smashed urns and dusty crates scattered around the area. The corridor split off into 3 other directions. He could go left, straight on, or turn right. Bane chooses left, and paces the new corridor in hopes of finding something of value to him. He searched every room he came across on the corridor and found nothing, other than evidence of previous visitors who had also searched the same areas. After many hours of exploring Nadd's tomb, Bane eventually found himself near the very center. In the distance he could see 2 more images, hallucinations from his mind. He could see Khan and Cortis. They both stood a meter apart and beside a doorway. that seemed to be blocked by a black stone slab. It appeared to be undisturbed as it came closer. The thought made him excited that he had possibly found something new. Perhaps the doorway that now presented itself was masked before by sith sorcery, and only now as that spell wore off, making the doorway visible to any who came. Darth Bane inspected the doorway and stone slab, which would clearly not be movable if he tried with his own physical strength. There was another way he could open it. Bane stepped back and reached out using the Force, attempting to pull the slab towards him. It was difficult, not because of the mass or weight of the object, but because there seemed to be a power resisting his attempts, which abruptly failed. Bane took a deep breath and readied for another try. This time he delves deep inside his being, locating the spark of his dark side power. It always started that way, a spark, which then became a flame, and then became a raging inferno of power as Bane channeled his dark side energy, fueling it with the memories of his father, memories of countless beatings and the hatred he had for his dad. Bane dredged up each bitter memory until his raw dark side power was unleashed with a forward fist gesture toward the stone slab. The might of Bane's power took the slab clean out of its home position and all the way to the back of the newly exposed room. It hits the farthest wall with a crash. Impressively, the stone slab survived the thrusting. Bane had to take a moment to regain himself. He had raised his power to the point of critical mass, and it took all he had to contain, channel it. Bane glances into the center chamber he had discovered, and sees a large area with 4 huge stone walls, etched with sith carvings and statues. Center of the room was a small podium, holding a familiar triangle object. It was Freedon Nadd's holocron, the treasure that Bane was hoping to claim. Being ever cautious, Bane glances around once more and sees that the ceiling appears to be making a noise. The ceiling was gold and shiny, but it was also moving. The longer Bane inspected the high ceiling, the more clear it became that he was looking at bugs, or perhaps parasites. He could hear the scuttling and strange bug noises. It appears that the bugs are becoming more active, as if someone had awoken them. One of the large crustacean-looking bugs fell from the ceiling and hit the ground with a thud, not too far from where Bane stood. And as he stepped forward, another one fell from the ceiling. This time he had to draw his lightsaber and whack the parasite as it came flying down toward him. The parasite ricocheted off Bane's saber and fell to the floor. To Bane's utter surprise, his lightsaber hadn't cut through the shell of the creature, not even a mark. It was now that Bane sensed he was in danger, so he lunged for the holocron. He rushes to pick it up and turns quickly around to exit the room. As he dashes to leave, holocron in hand, more parasites begin to fall. Bane struggles to avoid the now swarming colony of bugs falling onto him. He pushes some away and whacks others with his lightsaber, but they were too many. One parasite latched onto his shoulder and immediately dispersed an acid that burned through his clothing and skin. Bane continues to struggle towards the exit and another parasite latches onto his chest, dispersing the same acid substance that burned through his breastplate and then flesh. Darth Bane runs through the exit doorway and reaches out with the Force to retrieve the stone slab from earlier and restore it to its original position, separating Bane from the parasites. He was successful, fueled by the adrenaline of what just happened, and now Darth Bane had the holocron of Freedon Nadd.